Good morning, students. Yesterday, in the previous class, we discussed about the major factors that caused world wars. The causes of world wars, World War I and World War II. What are some of the causes for the outbreak of world wars? Aggressive nationalism, imperialism, secret alliances, and militarism. What is meant by militarism? Militarism is the belief that military strength is the best way to ensure security. And war is a good way to solve problems. So if we want to be safe, we have to wage wars. And in order to wage wars, we should make our military forces very, very equipped. So in short, militarism is armament, making more and more weapons, increasing the military capability, increasing military strength, setting up of industrial complex where you produce weapons. We call it as war industry, encouraging war industry, and create a psychological feeling in the minds of the people that war is a solution to all the problems that we face. So you can see from the chart given in your textbook that every country, every powerful European country began accumulating weapons of mass destruction. They started to spend huge sum of money on armament, equipping the military forces ready for war with weapons is called armament, making more and more arms. So in your textbook, military expenditure by great powers like Germany, Austria-Hungary, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, and France from the period from 1880 to 1914 is given. So let us once examine this graph which depicts the armament race. The degree or the level of money spent for arms, money spent for military or the military expenses. So let us see the graph. Yes. Do you see a graph?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
What is this graph about? This graph is
The
about armament race. What is the meaning of armament race, or what do you understand by the word armament race? Race is, of course, running or taking more steps one by one. Every country in Europe began spending huge sum of money in making more and more arms and increasing the military capacity. Let us look at in 1880. What was the amount spent by these five great powers for armaments? It was
132 million
million pounds. Very important. You should not forget to tell the units. 132 million pounds. Now, if you examine, you can find steadily increasing the military expenditure of these powers like Germany, Austria-Hungary, Great Britain, Russia, Italy, and France. They are the big players in Europe. In fact, they are the big powers in Europe. They are the people who practiced arms race, who practiced imperialism, who also entered into military secret alliances like Triple Alliance and Triple Entente. Let us see their expenditure in next 10 years, that is in 1890. What was the military expenditure of these great powers?
158
158 million pounds. And in 1900, beginning of the 20th century, it increased. It shot up to 205
million
and in 1910,
288 million
288 million pounds. And 1914, 397 million pounds. So if you examine, you can find the military expenditure of these six powers: Germany, Russia, Austria, Italy, France, and Britain increased by over 300%, right? It increased by over 300%, that is from 132 million pounds in 1880 to 397 million pounds in 1914, just before the outbreak of the First World War. So what is the percentage of increase here? The percentage of increase is 300%. What is the total percentage of expenses?
300%.
300% increase. So this is also attributed as another reason, another important reason for the outbreak of wars, right? Now, these are the common factors for world wars, World War I and World War II. Yesterday, in the previous class, I told you to remember the keyword main. Remember the keyword main.
Main.
What is main?
Military
Yes, M stands for militarism. A stands for alliances, secret alliances. I stands for imperialism. And N stands for nationalism and aggressive nationalism, right? There is a difference between nationalism and aggressive nationalism. Nationalism is a positive impulse. It is necessary for nation building. It is the force behind the establishment of nation states in Europe. It is also a powerful force behind the freedom movement in Asia and Africa. So it is a good, it is a positive impulse, but when it becomes aggressive, it becomes negative. It turns into negative. Aggressive nationalism makes people take pride in their nation, at the same time hatred for others. Aggressive nationalism always go for extreme things. Aggressive nationalists wage wars, attack other countries, sometimes violence on minority communities. They view all other countries as their enemies, and that cause wars, right? Aggressive nationalism was the force behind, or you can say, the newer ideologies that developed in the world, like Nazism, fascism, are all the clear manifestation of aggressive nationalism, right? And that caused Second World War. The Balkan Peninsula, which was under the control of Ottoman Turkish Empire, was also a spot where a lot of nationalist movements took place. The countries of Balkan Peninsula, such as today's Yugoslavia, Serbia, Bosnia, Greece, Albania, Bulgaria, all these countries, Montenegro, these countries are called Balkan countries. Yes, the immediate cause for the outbreak of the First World War is the assassination of the Crown Prince of Austria, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, along with his wife Sofia, at Sarajevo, the capital of Serbia, by a Bosnian Serb. Right? That is, the reason is aggressive nationalism. A Bosnian fanatic shot dead Ferdinand, the Crown Prince of Austria. That resulted into First World War, and this assassination is because of aggressive nationalism. We will learn in the next lessons about the problem, the Balkan Peninsula's problem. How was Balkan politics responsible for the outbreak of First World War? Right? Another important topic to be studied in the coming classes. Now, if you look at the Second World War, apart from these four main causes, there are some special causes for the Second World War. Understand? Now, among these special causes for the Second World War, the first one is the Treaty of Versailles. The Treaty of Versailles. What is Treaty of Versailles? What is Treaty of Versailles? The Treaty of Versailles is the treaty signed between the Allied powers with Germany. First World War ended in the defeat of Germany, right? First World War ended in the defeat of Germany, and the victorious powers, the Allied, Entente powers, Britain, France, USA, Japan, all made Germany sign a treaty. That treaty is called Treaty of Versailles. It is signed in the mirrored palace of Versailles in Paris. Therefore, it is called Treaty of Versailles. Right? Let us see how far Treaty of Versailles was responsible for the outbreak of Second World War. Right? The World War ended with a conference on peace at Versailles, the Paris Peace Conference in 1918, and the Treaty of Versailles was signed between Germany and the victorious powers in 1919. And this was one of the biggest treaties signed after the First World War. Now, this treaty was a humiliating treaty. It was an insulting treaty. It made Germany responsible for the outbreak of war. You know, Germany was not the country which started First World War. First World War was started between Austria and Serbia, right? But the victorious powers like Britain and France wanted to see that Germany is humbled because they were jealous about the growth of Germany. So they wanted to see that Germany should permanently be crippled. Germany shall not rise again. Germany shall not become a threat to Britain and France. So the big victorious powers of that time, USA, UK, France, Italy, and Japan, participated in this Paris Peace Conference, right? And in this peace conference, they did not invite Germany, defeated power. They did not invite USSR, Russia, because Russia became a socialist country. A big country like Russia was not invited to become part of the Paris Peace Conference. And the conditions imposed on Germany were a diktat, or you can say is an order, right? It is called as a diktat on Germany. So Germans had no respect for this treaty. Now this treaty, let us see about the treaty. Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919. It humiliated, it insulted, and it humbled Germany. It had many clauses like economic clauses, territorial clauses, political clauses, and military clauses. Now, according to territorial clauses of this treaty, Germany had to leave all her colonies in Asia and Africa. All colonies which was in the possession of Germany had to be given to the Allied powers. Germany had colonies. Germany had control over some area in China. Germany had control over Southwest Africa. Now, according to the territorial clause, conditions imposed on Germany is that Germany has to give up all her territories to the Allied powers. Right? Germany was cut. A west portion of Germany was cut and joined with another state, and they created a new state called Poland. Western Prussia was cut and a new state was created, and it was called Poland. Right? Now, two important areas of Germany, which Germany acquired from France after the defeat of France in the Franco-Prussian War 1870, one is Alsace and second one Lorraine. Alsace, a beautiful area, a landscape. Alsace and Lorraine, these two areas had to be handed over to France. Holstein and Schleswig had to be given to Austria. Eufen and Malmedy had to be given to Belgium. Right? So much area of Germany had to be parted with other powers. Again, Saar Wali, Germans, Saar Wali was given to France for 14 years. Germany, an area called Danzig, was made an international zone. It was made an international port. And in order to make Poland a way to reach Danzig, an important road was built called the Polish Corridor. So Polish and the Poland can go to this Danzig. Danzig was originally territory of Germany, and Danzig is now made a free city. And a road is constructed called Polish Corridor, right? Cutting Germany into two parts. On either side of the Polish Corridor, who live? Germans live, right? So these were some of the territorial arrangements of the Treaty of Versailles. Economic clauses, economic conditions. Germany had to pay huge war indemnity. Germany had to pay huge war indemnity to the Allied powers. Germany had to pay huge sum of money as compensation to Allied powers like Britain, France, and USA for the loss caused by Germany during First World War. And the money, the war indemnity, the compensation put on Germany was more than her capability, more than her capacity. Germany could not repay it in time. And the third one, military clauses. Military clause is such that dictated by Britain and France. Britain and France wanted to see that Germany is crippled, handicapped. Germany would never rise. Germany would never become a threat to them. So in order to do that, they made so many conditions on Germany. More important condition is that Germany had to reduce the strength of German military. Germany had 9 lakhs soldiers during First World War, and according to Treaty of Versailles, the Allied powers put conditions on Germany that Germany should reduce the size of the military. Germany was allowed to maintain only a small army with 1 lakh soldiers. With 1 lakh soldiers. But during World War I, German soldiers or German military capacity was 9 lakh soldiers. So Germany and France wanted to see that Germany shall never become a threat to them. Germany shall never challenge them. Germany shall never rise, never develop. And they wanted to humble Germany. So they put a condition, Germany should maintain an army of only 1 lakh soldiers in the place of 9 lakh soldiers, right? And Germany was not allowed to maintain submarines. Germany shall not maintain submarines. And the strength of German Navy shall be reduced to only 6 battleships, right? So all these were the conditions put on Germany. Now these conditions were very harsh, very rude, not fair, and it was in fact a humiliating treaty. It was an insulting treaty. And as I said, Germany, a nation which achieved unification on aggressive nationalism and by waging wars, war with Denmark, war with Austria, war with France. It was not sure whether Germany would bear these conditions and agree. And that is the reason we say that historians, famous historians, comment that the seeds for a future war, is already sown in the Treaty of Versailles. Did you understand? Historians comment that Treaty of Versailles was a humiliating treaty. It was an unfair treaty. It was a harsh treaty. It was not a fair treaty. So they said the Treaty of Versailles, the seeds for a future war, the seeds for a future war is already sown in the Treaty of Versailles. Right? If you sow some seeds, what will happen in the future? If we sow some seeds, what will happen in the future? The seeds will sprout.
It will grow.
It will slowly, a small sapling
It will
will come
grow.
outside, and then it will grow, and it will develop branches, and it will become a big tree, a very strong tree, right? So historians' comment is that the seeds for a future war is already sown in the Treaty of Versailles. So you can say that Treaty of Versailles, what type of treaty? Humiliating Treaty of Versailles was one of the most important reasons for the outbreak of Second World War. Now, this treaty created opposition. This treaty created resentment. This treaty created what you call a kind of protest movement in Germany. And this treaty, the conditions of the treaty of Versailles were slavish. What do you mean by slavish? It treated the people of Germany like slaves. And German people, known for their aggressive nationalism, once again gave rise to the rise of a person called Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler became powerful by opposing the Treaty of Versailles. It gave rise to a new ideology, aggressive ideology called Nazism. Who is the exponent of this ideology? Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler, the dreaded dictator of the world during that time, right? So this treaty is responsible for the rise of Nazism. This treaty is responsible for the revival of German nationalism under Adolf Hitler, which dragged the entire world once again into another horrible war, right? Second World War. Now, next, the Paris Peace Conference, which was held after the First World War, also decided to set up an international organization, a world policing to preserve peace. To preserve peace, right? And the big powers, the chief allied powers like USA, China, Britain, France participated, and they set up an important organization called the League of Nations. In our timeline, we have seen that League of Nations was another important event that took place in the 20th century. That happened immediately after the war. League of Nations. It is an organization, right? And the League of Nations was set up to preserve world peace, to prevent wars, to give a platform that if any country has any dispute, the matter shall be settled not by war, but by discussion, negotiation, peaceful mediation. So the aim of League of Nations was to achieve collective security. Collective security, right? We shall not resort to war. We shall not resort to aggression. If there is a dispute, we should discuss and settle the matter peacefully. That was the intention of the League of Nations, and it was a failure. It was a failure. The failure of the League of Nations was an important or another reason for the outbreak of Second World War. Let us see why League of Nations failed. League of Nations was set up to prevent wars in the future, right? Russia or Germany were not invited in this meeting. So Russia did not become member of League of Nations. Russia became member of League of Nations very late. Germany, though initially member, later resigned. USA never became member of League of Nations. right? The League of Nations was the, what you call, or the idea of the US President Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson is said to be the architect of League of Nations, right? Woodrow Wilson, the President of USA, played a very important and active role in the Paris Peace Conference. And he suggested 14 points known as Wilson's 14 points. Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. And one such point that he raised for world peace is setting up of an international organization, that is League of Nations, with responsibility of collective security. But USA never became a member of the League of Nations. Woodrow Wilson, after setting up a League of Nations, went back to USA, and in the US Congress, the decision of Woodrow Wilson was not approved. The Congress did not pass resolution of USA becoming a member of the League of Nations. As the US Congress, US Parliament refused to sanction the proposal of Woodrow Wilson to become member of League of Nations, America never became a member of League of Nations. Now, League of Nations didn't have a military of its own. So on account of all these, League of Nations could not prevent wars. It only could prevent small wars, but could not prevent the activities of the big powers. The big powers like Britain, France, Italy, Germany, Japan never respected the orders of the League of Nations. Right? Big powers did not cooperate with the League of Nations. As a result, League of Nations failed. But League of Nations also had some other important agencies like the World Health Organization, WHO, ILO, International Labour Organization, and it also set up an international court of justice known as Permanent Court of Justice to deal with the international law and settle disputes between nations. The League of Nations was set up in Geneva, right? It was set up in the city of Geneva in Switzerland. And the International Court of Justice, an important organ of the League of Nations, was set up at Hague in Netherlands. It is existent even today. It is also an important organ of the United Nations organization, right? So what are the important agencies or organs of the League of Nations? Permanent Court of Justice or International Court of Justice, ILO, International Labour Organization, and WHO, World Health Organization. Where is International Court of Justice located?
In Netherlands.
Yes, it is located in the city of Hague in Netherlands. Okay. Which was the headquarters of League of Nations?
Geneva, Switzerland.
Geneva. The headquarters of League of Nations was in Geneva.
Geneva.
Right. Though League of Nations failed in achieving world peace, preventing world wars, preventing the rise of dictatorship all over the world, it could do commendable job in the field of social development and health. Right. Through the health organization, through WHO, it conducted a lot of researches and also prevented very effectively the spreading of epidemics like malaria, cholera, plague, smallpox, etc. It could raise the standard of life in many poor countries. ILO, for example, fixed the working hours of the laborers, asked the capitalists to behave properly with the workers, made conditions for insurance and safety in the factories. It could prevent the trafficking of drugs and trafficking of women and children. Right, illegal transportation of women and children, one part of the world to another part of the world for illegal purposes. It could do a lot of things to prevent such type of illegal activities. So as far as our lesson is concerned, you just understand failure of League of Nations was another reason for the outbreak of Second World War. Next important factor or important cause for the Second World War, on the special context of Second World War, we can say German challenge. German challenge to vengeful domination. German challenge to vengeful domination. What is the meaning? What is the meaning? Vengeful, revenge. Now, Treaty of Versailles was a treaty of vengeance by France and Britain. France wanted to take revenge on Germany for its defeat of the war in 1870, Franco-Prussian War. Germany defeated France. So today, when Germany is defeated, France wanted to take revenge. So France made the treaty very, very harsh. So it is a treaty which treated Germany as a slave. They wanted to see that Germany is humble and Germany would never rise again. Germany would never become a threat to us. So they wanted to destroy Germany. They wanted to destroy Germany. And many of the provisions in the Treaty of Versailles were slavish, treating German and Germany as slaves. So this created a powerful reaction in Germany. The unnatural terms and conditions of the Treaty of Versailles created powerful reaction against this treaty, and this led to the rise of Hitler. It gave rise to the new ideology of Nazism and the Nazi party. And this party of Hitler wanted to restore the glory of Germany. They wanted to get back the territories Germany lost due to Treaty of Versailles. They also wanted to remove the restrictions placed on German armaments. And Germans reindustrialized itself furiously under the Nazis and developed a massive army and armament industry which could be survived only by war. We will learn later about rise of Hitler. We will see how Hitler got such a vast support, how Hitler got large number of followers, how Hitler became the dictator of Germany, how people of Germany treated him, why he was like a god to them, and how he caused Second World War. What were the policies of Hitler? What were the cruel practices adopted by Hitler to become world conqueror, or to make Germany the most powerful nation in the world? And this idea, this ideology, or this aggressive form of nationalism gave rise to Second World War, right? So next, on the special context of the Second World War, you can also say another reason for the outbreak of the war. It is ideological clash. It is the fear of socialism, and USSR. You learned that during First World War, there arose a revolution in Russia. The Russian Tsar Nicholas, was removed from power, and later he was hanged. The Bolsheviks, the workers, captured power and established a dictatorship of the proletariat. We call it as the world famous Russian Socialist Revolution. Now, socialism and communism created fear in the minds of the capitalist countries, because capitalism is opposed to communism, right? Capitalism is opposed to communism. Democracy is opposed to communism and socialism. Dictatorship, you can see the world was divided among various ideologies. Communist countries, for example, Russia became a communist country. So what is the ideology that they pursue? Communism, right? Communists believe that private property is the root cause of all inequality in the society. So private property should be abolished. On the other side, we have capitalists. Capitalists believe that we should have the freedom to produce, to own, and to become rich. If you are powerful, if you have capital, You have the freedom to set up any industry and become rich. You need not bother about others. So communism is opposed to capitalism. So communist countries treat capitalist countries as their enemies. Democracy is opposed to communism. All the democratic countries like Britain, France, USA, they are democratic countries. These democratic countries are opposed to the ideology of communism. So just before the outbreak of the Second World War, all the democratic countries opposed Russia. Right? There was a fear that similar kind of revolution, experiment will spread to their countries. So they were on constant vigil to prevent the spreading of communism, to prevent the spreading of socialism. So in short, you can say there was an ideological clash among the big countries, Britain, France, USA. On one side, they are democratic countries, they are capitalist countries. Russia, on another side, is a communist country. So Russia is opposed to Britain, France, and USA. Now, in the world, you could also find during the same period emergence of totalitarian, autocratic government, dictatorships. Germany is a dictatorship. Italy, another dictatorship. Spain, another dictatorship. So they are totalitarian government, no democracy, right? So these dictatorship also caused fear. So democratic countries are opposed to communism and dictatorship. Dictatorships are opposed to communism and democracy. So this triangle conflict also was another reason for the outbreak of Second World War. For example, when Hitler declared that communists are his arch rivals, Britain and France slowly encouraged Hitler. They encouraged Hitler against Russia because Russia is their enemy, right? So Hitler now turned against Russia and declared communists are his arch rivals, and he started to liquidate them, right? So at that time, who encouraged? Britain and France encouraged Russia against Britain, and France encouraged Hitler against Russia. Why did they encourage? Because Russia is a communist country and Britain and France are democratic countries. They are opposed to each other. Dictatorship is also dangerous, but they used Hitler. They encouraged Hitler to turn against Russia. This policy of Britain and France is called appeasement of Hitler, right? Not the important term, appeasement of Hitler. What is meant by the appeasement policy? The appeasement policy is followed